The alarm hit me before I even had my helmet sealed. 3 short tones, then a fourth that did not stop. That fourth tone meant a reactor was about to go critical, and it was not coming from my ship. It was coming from the wreck floating 100 meters off my bow, the one I had only just started to scan. I did not have time to think about it. I grabbed my tool case, kicked off the wall, and pushed myself through the connecting tube before my brain had even finished deciding this was a good idea. My name is Daniel Hollis. I fly a salvage hauler through the outer debris lanes, picking up broken ships that nobody wants anymore. Most days, that means dead metal and empty cargo holds. That day, it meant a ship that was very much alive and dying fast. The corridor lights inside the wreck were flickering red. Smoke curled along the ceiling, thin and bitter, the kind that tells you wiring is burning somewhere close. I followed the sound of the alarm deeper into the ship, my boots clanging on a floor that was not built for human feet. Every panel curved in ways that made no sense to me. Then I saw her. She was pressed against a wall panel, one hand buried inside an open circuit board, sparks jumping across her fingers every few seconds. She turned when she heard me, and for a moment, I forgot about the alarm completely. She was not human. Pale gray skin, a narrow ridge running from her forehead down the back of her neck, eyes a shade of gold I had never seen on any living thing. She looked at me the way you look at a predator that has wandered into your house. "Stay back," she said. Her voice came out sharp and clipped through a translator box clipped to her collar. "This is a restricted vessel." "Your reactor is about to blow," I said. "I don't care what it's restricted to." She raised a weapon at me with her free hand, something small and black that hummed when she gripped it. I raised both of mine, tool case and all. "I can fix this," I said. "Or you can shoot me, and we can both find out what a reactor breach looks like from the inside." For 3 long seconds, she did not move. Then the ship groaned, a deep metal sound that came from somewhere below our feet, and the lights dimmed even further. "Fix it," she said, and lowered the weapon. "Fast." I did not wait for a second invitation. I dropped to my knees beside the open panel and looked inside. Vivan Engineering, I realized. I had seen diagrams of Vivan tech before, second-hand, traded between salvagers who liked to brag about ships they had never actually touched. None of that prepared me for how different it looked in person. Wires ran in spirals instead of straight lines. Circuits glowed faintly blue instead of green. Nothing was where a human engineer would put it. "What happened?" I asked, already reaching for my multi-tool. "A pirate strike," she said. 3 ships. We destroyed 2, but the third hit our containment field before it fled. My engineer is dead. My pilot is trapped in the front section behind a collapsed bulkhead. It is just me, and I do not know your systems." Her systems, she meant. Human systems. She thought I was going to fail before I even started. "You don't need to know my systems," I said. "You need to hold this panel open and tell me if anything changes color." She knelt beside me without another word. Whatever pride she had, she set it aside the moment survival became more important than distrust. The core was overheating because the containment coils had been damaged in the attack, and the ship's automatic systems could not reroute power fast enough to compensate. I could see the numbers climbing on a small display built into the panel, numbers I could not read, but the color told me enough. Green was fine, yellow was a warning. The display had turned a deep, angry orange, and it was climbing toward red. "How long until it turns red?" I asked. She looked at a separate display near her knee. "Perhaps 6 minutes. When it reaches red, the core will vent uncontrolled. Everyone on this ship dies, possibly your ship as well, if you are still close enough. 6 minutes. I had diffused worse situations with less time, but never on a ship where I could not read a single label. "I need you to translate for me," I said. "Every switch, every wire color, tell me what it does. Do not guess. If you do not know, say so." She nodded, and for the first time, something in her expression shifted from suspicion to something closer to focus. We were partners now, whether either of us liked it or not. I worked fast, following the same instinct that had kept me alive through a dozen bad salvage jobs. Cut the power to the damaged coil, reroute through the backup line, stabilize the flow before it collapsed entirely. Simple in theory, Almost impossible when every component was built for hands with 3 fingers instead of 5, and every wire was a color I had never learned to trust. "This one," she said, pointing to a thick blue cable running along the bottom of the panel. "It carries the coolant signal. If it breaks, the system will not know how hot the core actually is." "Then I'm not touching that one," I said, and moved my hands carefully around it. The ship groaned again, louder this time, and somewhere behind us, a support strut buckled with a sound like a gunshot. She flinched, but did not move from her position holding the panel open. "4 minutes," she said. I found what I was looking for, a secondary relay that had partially melted from the heat but was not yet destroyed. If I could bypass it and force the power through a different path, the coils might cool fast enough to avoid a full breach. It was a guess built on years of fixing things that were never designed to be fixed, but it was the only guess I had. "I need something to cut this housing open," I said. "Something stronger than my tools." She reached to her belt and pulled out a short blade, handing it to me handle first. I did not ask questions. I jammed it into the seam of the relay housing and pried it open, exposing a tangle of scorched wiring inside. 3 minutes, she said, and her voice had lost its edge of command. Now it just sounded afraid, the way anyone sounds when the countdown becomes real, instead of theoretical. I found 2 wires that looked undamaged and spliced them together with my own equipment, praying that Venn electrical standards were close enough to work with a human patch job. The moment the connection held, a small light on the panel flickered from orange toward yellow. "It's dropping," she said, disbelief creeping into her translated voice. "The temperature is dropping." I kept working, tightening the connection, running a second line to reinforce it in case the first one failed under strain. The ship stopped groaning. The lights along the corridor steadied from a flickering red to a dim, stable amber. Somewhere far below us, a mechanical hum settled into something closer to silence. We stayed there for a moment, both of us breathing hard, neither of us saying anything. The danger was not gone, not completely, but it had stepped back from the edge. "You did that," she said finally, staring at the panel like she still did not believe it. "With human tools, on a Veen reactor." "I got lucky," I said, because it was true. "No," she said. "Luck does not read wiring diagrams it has never seen before and choose the correct wire on the first attempt. That was skill." She helped me to my feet, her grip firm and careful, like she was still deciding whether to trust her own hands around mine. "My name is Isabel Thren," she said. "I command this vessel, or what remains of it." "Daniel Hollis," I said. "I fix things, usually things that are already dead. This is new for me." For the first time since I had come aboard, something close to a smile touched the corner of her mouth. It did not last long, because a new sound cut through the corridor, a low mechanical groan from somewhere deeper in the ship, followed by a voice, muffled and distant, calling out in a language I did not understand. "My pilot," Isabel said, her focus snapping back into place. "He is still trapped." We moved together, deeper into the wreck, past scorched walls and torn panels, following the sound of that voice, until we reached a section where the ceiling had collapsed entirely, blocking the corridor with twisted metal and broken support beams. "Ethan," Isabel called through the wreckage, and I realized her pilot had a name I could actually pronounce, one that sounded almost like it belonged on my side of the galaxy, though I did not ask why. "I am here," came the muffled reply. "The beam has trapped my leg. I cannot move it." I looked at the debris blocking the corridor. It would take heavy equipment to clear it properly, equipment neither of us had, but there was a narrow gap near the top, just wide enough for a person to squeeze through if they were careful and small enough. "I can fit through there," I said, pointing to the gap. "Give me a light." Isabel handed me a small device from her belt that produced a steady beam of white light, and I climbed the twisted metal carefully, testing each handhold before trusting my weight to it. The gap was tight, tighter than I expected, and for a moment, I thought I would not make it through at all. Then my shoulders cleared the last obstruction, and I dropped down into a small pocket of space on the other side. Ethan was pinned beneath a fallen support beam, his leg trapped at an angle that looked painful but not broken, as far as I could tell. He was younger than Isabel, or at least he looked it, with the same pale gray skin and golden eyes, though his ridge was less pronounced. "You are human," he said, staring at me with wide eyes. "Isabel brought a human onto this ship?" "Isabel is going to want an explanation for a lot of things once this is over," I said, already examining the beam. "Right now, I need you to tell me if this thing moves at all, or if it's completely locked in place." "It shifted earlier," he said. "When the ship rocked, it is not fully seated." That was good news. It meant leverage might work where brute force would not. I found a length of pipe nearby, snapped loose from some other part of the wreckage, and wedged it beneath the beam, using a smaller piece of debris as a fulcrum. "When I push down, pull your leg free," I said. "Do not wait. You will only get one good chance before this beam settles again." He nodded, bracing himself against the floor with both hands. I pushed down on the pipe with everything I had, my muscles straining against the weight of twisted metal that had never been designed to be moved by human strength alone. For a moment, nothing happened, and I thought the beam would not budge at all. Then it shifted, just barely, just enough. "Now," I said through gritted teeth. Ethan pulled his leg free in one sharp motion, and I let the beam drop back down the instant he was clear, jumping back myself before it could crush the pipe entirely. He lay there for a moment, breathing hard, testing his leg carefully before trying to stand. "It works," he said, surprise clear in his voice. "It actually works." "Told you," I said, though I had not been nearly as confident as I sounded. We made our way back through the gap together, slower this time, because of his leg, until we reached Isabel on the other side. She looked at Ethan, checked him over with quick, practiced hands, then looked at me with an expression I could not quite read. "Twice now," she said. "Twice you have done something on this ship that should not have been possible for someone who has never seen our technology before." "I've had a lot of practice fixing things that shouldn't work anymore," I said. "Turns out the principles are mostly the same, no matter who built the ship." We made it back to the main corridor, and for a moment, it felt like the danger was finally behind us. The reactor was stable. Ethan was free. The ship, battered as it was, would hold together long enough to be repaired properly. Then, the proximity alarm went off. Isabel's head snapped toward a display built into the wall, her expression darkening as she read whatever information appeared there. "They are back," she said. "The third pirate ship. It must have circled around while we were dealing with the reactor." I felt my stomach tighten. "How close?" "Close enough to see us on their scanners," she said. "And far too close to escape at our current speed, since our main engines are still damaged from the earlier attack." "Can you fight them off?" I asked. "Our weapons systems took damage as well," Ethan said, leaning against the wall to take weight off his injured leg. "We have perhaps one functional turret, and it cannot track fast enough to hit a ship moving at that speed." I thought fast, running through everything I knew about the ship's systems from the few minutes I had spent inside its guts. "What about the coolant system I just fixed? Can you overload it on purpose, just for a moment, enough to create a burst of heat venting from the hull?" Isabel looked at me like I had suggested something insane, which, to be fair, I probably had. "You want me to intentionally destabilize the very system you just repaired?" "Not destabilize it completely," I said. "Just enough to vent a short burst of superheated gas from the exterior ports. If their scanners pick up a sudden spike in your reactor readings, they might think you're about to overload for real, and pull back to avoid getting caught in the blast." "That is either brilliant or suicidal," Ethan said. "Probably both," I admitted. Isabel considered it for a long moment, her golden eyes narrowing as she weighed the risk. Then she nodded, sharp and decisive. "Do it. If we are going to die anyway, I would rather die trying something clever than sitting here waiting for their weapons to finish us." I ran back toward the reactor panel, with Isabel close behind me, my hands moving fast over the connections I had just made minutes earlier. I found the valve controlling the coolant release and eased it open just enough to create a controlled surge, watching the temperature display climb rapidly toward orange before I sealed it again, holding my breath the entire time. Outside the hull, I could not see it, but I could imagine it. A sudden bloom of heat venting into the cold of space, bright enough for any scanner to register as a serious problem. "Their approach is slowing," Isabel said. watching a display near the reactor. They are pulling back. They believe we are unstable. Keep venting small bursts, I said. Just enough to keep them nervous, not enough to actually damage anything. We repeated the process twice more, small controlled releases timed carefully to keep the pirate ship uncertain about our true condition. Each time, their approach slowed further, until finally, their signal turned away entirely, retreating back into the debris field they had come from. They are leaving, Ethan said, relief flooding his translated voice. They are actually leaving. Isabel let out a breath I had not realized she was holding, her shoulders dropping for the first time since I had met her. We survived, she said quietly, almost to herself. Because of a human with a tool case. The three of us sat in the corridor afterward, exhausted, surrounded by the quiet hum of a ship that was finally, truly stable. Ethan checked his leg again, wincing but managing a small laugh of relief when he confirmed nothing was broken. Isabel simply stared at me for a long moment, her expression unreadable. I owe you a debt I cannot easily repay, she said finally. You saved my ship, my pilot, and very likely my own life, 3 separate times in the space of an hour. Among my people, this is not a small thing. It carries weight, formal weight, the kind written into law rather than simply spoken between friends. You don't owe me anything, I said. I saw people in danger. I had tools. That's just what you do. She shook her head slowly. You say this as though it costs you nothing to feel that way. Where I come from, kindness of this size is rare enough that we have built entire systems of honor around repaying it properly. She reached toward a small device on her wrist, one I had noticed earlier but assumed was simply a communicator. She pressed a sequence into it, and the lights along the corridor shifted from amber to a deep, warm gold. I am naming you kin-bonded to my house, she said, under the old law of my people, still recognized by every ship that flies under VN colors. From this moment, any harm brought against you is harm brought against my family directly. Any conflict that finds you will find allies standing beside you, whether you asked for them or not. I stared at her, trying to process what she had just said. That's not exactly the reward I was expecting. What were you expecting? Ethan asked, a hint of amusement slipping into his voice despite the exhaustion clear on his face. Parts maybe, I said. Fuel. A tow back to a station that wouldn't ask too many questions about why I'm covered in reactor coolant. Isabel actually laughed at that, a short, surprised sound that seemed to catch even her off guard. You saved 3 lives today, Daniel Hollis, using tools built for a species that is not your own, and you expected fuel as your reward. In my defense, I said, I didn't know kin bonding was on the table. It is on the table now, she said, her voice steady and serious again. Whether you accept it changes nothing about what you have already done for us, but I would be glad, more than glad, if you did. I thought about my life before that alarm had gone off, the quiet, lonely work of pulling parts from dead ships, day after day, with nobody waiting for me, and nobody watching my back. I thought about the 6 minutes we had just survived together, the trust that had grown between 3 strangers, in the space of a single crisis. All right, I said. I accept. Isabel nodded, satisfied, and behind her, through the small viewport in the corridor, I could see the first lights of her rescue fleet finally arriving, ships that had been too far away to help during the attack, now closing in to escort what remained of her damaged vessel home. I had come looking for scrap that day. Instead, I had found something I never expected to find in the cold, empty spaces between the stars, people worth protecting, and a bond that would carry consequences I could not yet fully understand, stretching far beyond that one battered ship and its 2 grateful crew members. Whatever came next, I would not be facing it alone anymore, and for the first time in a long while, that thought did not scare me at all.